So let's dive into something pretty wild today. We're going to break down a worldview that connects the White House to the furthest stars. It argues that the solution to our biggest problems isn't in politics, but in a complete transformation of human consciousness itself. It's a really complex spiritual philosophy coming out of Korea, so let's get right into it.
Okay, so we're going to start with a question you've probably thought about. How does a religious group get so powerful that it can actually influence presidents? We see this dynamic all over the world, but the philosophy we're digging into today has an answer that stretches from the halls of Washington, D.C., all the way out to the cosmos.
All right, here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the familiar links between religion, money, and power. Then we'll uncover a pretty surprising mission of global unity. From there, we're going to zoom way out to a cosmic reckoning, take a look at the spiritual state of our world, and explore a fascinating solution, the idea that we all have to become stars. Yeah, stars. And we'll wrap up by looking at the unexpected role society's outcasts might play in all this. Okay, let's get into our first topic, religion, money, and power. The source material starts by laying out a pattern that, well, it's probably going to sound familiar to a lot of you. It's that often controversial link between spiritual groups and political clout. So, according to the speaker, the whole mechanism is actually pretty straightforward. A religious organization gets a big following, right? And that following translates directly into major economic power. And who needs votes and campaign money? Politicians. So they're naturally drawn into this orbit, creating this transactional relationship where influence gets traded back and forth. It's a dynamic that, as we know, can often lead to scandals and a lot of public side-eye. And to give you an idea of just how big we're talking, the speaker makes this truly incredible claim about the Unification Church's founder. Now, whether you take that literally or just as a way of saying their influence was massive, the point is clear. This organization got so rich and powerful that it became a major player on the world stage, especially in the US. But right here, this is where the story takes a really sharp turn. The speaker basically says, look, if you're focusing on the money and the politics, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're missing the whole point. They claim the real mission was something way more profound, something happening on a biological level. And that brings us right into section 2, a mission of blood unity. This is where the speaker pulls back the curtain on what they believe was the real, hidden purpose behind all that political and economic maneuvering. Get this. The central argument is that all the international stuff, the mass weddings, the global expansion, it wasn't about getting political favors. The speaker claims the actual goal was to physically mix the blood of the Korean people, which they see as this uniquely preserved lineage, with every other ethnic group on the entire planet. This is the core principle, right here, in the original Korean. If blood mixes, unification happens. The whole idea was to create one single human family connected by a literal shared bloodline. In theory, this would just erase all national and ethnic divisions. The source even says that highly educated people were specifically picked for these international marriages to help strategically spread this new, unified lineage all across the globe. Okay, so from that very specific, very unique mission, the speaker zooms way, way out to a universal event that they say is affecting every single person and institution on Earth. Welcome to Section 3, the Great Cosmic Reckoning. So the source uses this term cheonji gongsa. What does that mean? Well, think of it like the universe itself doing a course correction. All the hidden corruption, the lies, the dirty secrets inside every organization, from religions to corporations to governments, all of it gets dragged out into the light to be exposed and cleared away. It's kind of like a universal audit. And here's the real kicker. The speaker isn't talking about some future prophecy. They're saying it is happening right now. All the scandals you read about, the institutions collapsing, the widespread distrust in everything, they see all of that as direct proof that this cosmic reckoning is already in full swing. So if we're living through a cosmic reckoning, what does that actually feel like? Well, Section 4 describes the speaker's view of our current reality as a world in darkness. The speaker uses the Korean word kamkamhae, which means pitch black. And this isn't just a metaphor for people being ignorant. They're describing the actual spiritual energy of our planet. It's like humanity is living on a world without a sun, just trapped in this cold, dark state where, terrible things are bound to happen. And according to the speaker, this spiritual darkness has some horrifying symptoms. They make the absolutely shocking claim that hundreds of thousands of people are, in a way, disappearing across the globe every year. unreported by the media. In this view, we're not just talking about typical missing person cases. We're talking about souls being literally swallowed by the darkness, a direct consequence of our planet's spiritual sickness. So, if the problem is total darkness, what's the solution? Well, it has to be light, right? And that brings us to the absolute core teaching of this whole philosophy in Section 5. Humanity's task is to become stars. The central analogy here is just fascinating. It's one of physics. The speaker explains that most of us are like planets. We reflect light, but we don't make our own. The goal is to absorb so much of the right energy and knowledge that our inner physics literally bursts. Through that transformation, we stop being planets and we become stars, radiating our own light and our own warmth out into the universe. And here's the thing, this isn't just about you becoming a star all on your own. It's a collective mission. The ultimate goal is for enough people to make this transformation. Their combined light, like a brand new galaxy, would become so powerful that it would finally banish the spiritual darkness covering the earth, ending all that suffering and kicking off a real era of peace. And finally, we get to one of the most provocative, most surprising parts of this whole worldview: the redemption of the Jiandal. The speaker makes a really crucial distinction here. A Kangpei is basically just a thug, someone who uses brute force. But a Gandal? That's something else entirely. This word, which usually gets translated as gangster, is totally redefined here as a high-level spiritual seeker who's just lost their way. They have immense energy, but they don't have the right guidance. And crucially, the speaker says this category includes a lot of today's politicians, religious leaders, and CEOs. So instead of being condemned, these Gyondol are seen as heavenly disciples who just have all this untapped potential. They're like powerful spiritual warriors just waiting for the right mission. The idea is that if you can guide them, if you can educate them properly, they could become the greatest force for good, turning all that massive energy toward doing amazing things for society. And that really gets to the core message of hope in this whole philosophy. From the highly educated people chosen for those international marriages, all the way to the lost Gyondal on the fringes of society, nobody gets written off. Everyone is seen as a potential star, a vital piece in the cosmic puzzle to light up the world. And so that's where our journey ends. We went from a question about political influence all the way to a cosmic battle between darkness and light. Ultimately, this philosophy argues that the fate of our entire world hinges on a deeply personal transformation. It suggests the solution isn't out there somewhere, but in here. And it leaves us with one last big question. What does it take to ignite our own inner light?